All right, everyone. Welcome back to episode 8 of the Art of Approach podcast. My name is Tim Bray. I am a dating and approach coach, and I have my co-host Will Mulvaney with me today. This is actually an extension of our program, The Art of Approach. You can find out more information at theartofapproach.com. And what we do on this podcast, as with every podcast that we do, is we basically analyze dating advice and also share some of our own dating stories. Our format is we're going to first review an Instagram reel that we just found off Instagram, generally with a coach giving some advice. Then we field questions from Reddit, answer some of the top questions, as well as answering questions from our own community. And every time we're going through these different types of questions and dating scenarios, we are trying to address the root of the problem rather than the symptoms that occur from it. So really trying to dig down deep into why some things are working, why some things are not working when you're getting out there, approaching and meeting real people in real life. So, Will, would you like to take it away with the Instagram?
Let's do it.
I'm going to show you how to get rejected in 3 simple steps. Step 1, think shitty thoughts. I'm such a piece of shit. I'm so fucking ugly. And I'm short. There's no way she's going to talk to me. Yeah. Plus, I bet she has a boyfriend anyway. It's a waste of time. Step 2, have terrible posture. And last but not least, overthink everything you say to her. Yeah.
All right. So,
excellent.
Just to be clear, she is not telling you to do all these things. She is just explaining this is how you will get rejected.
Yes.
And I called this out, but this makes me think of Alex Hermosi, who's like a business influencer. And he talks about this. He's like, how can you not be successful? And then he's like, don't be consistent, sleep in, don't do this stuff that you need to do. So this is kind of like that perspective.
So do the opposite.
Yes.
Of everything she just said.
Figure out how to fail and then do the opposite things.
Yep.
So let's actually talk about each of those specific things. So
right.
The first one was think shitty thoughts. So Tim, how do you do the opposite?
Yeah. Well, where are those shitty thoughts coming from? They're generally coming from our own narratives that we built up about ourselves, our own inadequacies, our own lack of self-worth and self-trust. So being able to do a deep dive and practicing, for instance, mindfulness and understanding that you're going to be able to practicing mindfulness meditation, you're going to be able to catch those thoughts that are coming up, identify them, question whether they're true or not. That's a big portion of our program is really latching on to every single self-defeating narrative that comes up. And these things are going to come up until we start to really take notice of them and really identify if they're going to, if they're going to serve us or not, or limit us, essentially. So that's the first part.
Yeah, dude, and that goes way beyond dating too.
Way beyond dating. Everything in life.
Once you can catch those thoughts and do something about them, whether it's just, noticing a thought. If you follow any mindfulness, meditation, if you do it yourself, you'll notice as soon as you catch a thought and you recognize it as a thought, it just poof, goes away.
It's like magic.
But it's only when you're, attaching to thoughts and emotions that they kind of cycle and they lead you down into this rabbit hole of whatever it is. And that's when you lose control.
Yeah. And it feels like in your mind, there's like, whenever I'm meditating, what I'm doing is I'm almost kind of picturing this cave where all these thoughts are kind of coming in, all these sensations, all these different things I'm noticing are coming in. And it almost feels like there are certain kind of like channels that come in through the cave where you get a majority of these self-defeating thoughts. And the way I think about them for myself is I imagine that they have to do with these channels built from experiences that I've had in the past. So if there's been different things that have confirmed or validated in your mind that you're not worthy, they're all going to be coming from that particular channel. So a way that you can also work with these self-defeating beliefs and narratives and stories that you're telling yourself is to actually go back in time and heal those wounds. And that's what we do in the program, essentially.
Yeah. And how do you build up a better belief? So let's say you're thinking, you do have these this negative self-talk. And it's like, I'm too short. I'm too this, too that. She has a boyfriend. Where do you build up that other view, or like that other narrative that can come in and be like, no, this is the way? Or is it just uncertainty? Is it accepting the uncertainty that, oh, I actually don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if she's going to like me.
I mean, certainly, embracing uncertainty is going to help for sure. That's not going to necessarily quell the emotions or the thoughts that are coming up. In order to do that, you need to identify the origin of where they were started.
Right.
And in most cases, what I see with going back into these earlier stories is finding the origin point, and then providing empathy and acceptance for your humanity in that situation when you didn't necessarily, where you were seemingly letting the world down and showing your unworthiness, essentially.
Or like where you learned that thing.
Most of the times that we think that we're not worthy, or we have that limiting belief about ourselves, lack of trust, it all comes from these past experiences where we felt like we had to do something different than what we did, and that this is the origin point of perfectionism being that I have to do something that's even better than what I can normally do. So if we're able to go back to those points and give ourselves the humanity and the acceptance and the empathy, we're actually giving ourselves the freedom to experience life as a human with errors and flaws, and that by doing that, we're actually giving ourselves that trust and that love back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're digging back into the past, and then
a lot of it is all rooted back there.
expressing that like empathy.
Yeah,
dude, we talked about this a couple weeks ago about the self-love with Nicole.
Yep.
And I had mentioned the breathwork experience I had, and I had one this week, and it in this one he was saying to repeat the following to yourself, and that is, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I love you. And that I actually felt, because that's expressing I'm sorry for what happened, and then it's I forgive you. That's the empathy. Like I can understand what happened, and I see why that happened.
Yeah.
And then moving on from there is I love you. It's like, let's move forward.
Yeah. It's total acceptance.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that would be like if you have narratives that are based in like past experiences, past trauma, that are coloring the way that you see yourself or see the world. But you're saying like you got to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you can cut down on the chatter, for sure. The problem is that most people wanting to make big moves, big strides in this field, if they're wanting to get out of the dating arena, they're not going to be able to do all of that work. And the other way you can access that is by what you mentioned earlier, which is by embracing uncertainty and moving into it and basically showing yourself that you don't measure up to all those different stories that you have about yourself.
Right.
And that's a faster route. It's certainly more frightening than it is to sit back in an armchair and talk about all your different stories and work through them. But those are the two ways that you can get through.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you try to do the surface level fixes, like you might still have success in the hard metrics. Like you might get the dates. You might like sleep with women that you want to sleep with, but I think one good point is you're not going to be fixing that thing within yourself, and you're not going to be able to experience that peace of mind, like you were saying, like the quietness.
Yeah, and we're talking about quality here.
Yes.
So you might get dates, you might sleep with women, but are they going to be the quality that you're really truly desiring if you're just working at that top level, surface level?
Yes. Great points. The next advice for getting rejected was to have terrible posture. So you've been talking a little bit about body language, but this also, I guess this isn't even about understanding body language. This is about understanding your own physiology. And you had mentioned in our meetup group yesterday that in those moments when you're feeling nervous to talk to someone, like you have that fear inside of you, one of the best things you can do is to just like open yourself up, drop your shoulders, stand up straight, and suddenly your brain chemistry kind of changes.
Yep.
To reflect that physical state. And that's super powerful in itself, because you can just, change where your mind is at and get yourself moving, get that momentum going. I'm curious for you, a question. When we're in that nervousness state, it feels compressing. Like that's where the terrible posture comes in, is it feels like you want to get small and you want to hide a little bit.
Yeah.
So how do you get out of that?
Yeah. Attuning yourself, creating mindfulness about your body posture.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Being just noticing it in other people too helps as well, because it kind of reflects back to, what am I doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
I noticed I was in a conversation at one of our most recent meetup events that we had, where we were out at Whole Foods, and there was this woman that I went up to talk to, that was talking my ear off a little bit. And I noticed my leg bouncing a little bit because I wanted to get out of that conversation. And I looked down, I was like, oh, look what I'm doing down there.
Your leg is like talking to you.
Exactly.
we gotta go.
Yeah. So it is about creating that awareness with other people and creating that awareness with yourself, for sure. But from what I understand of body language, is that it has the potential to transform you just by readjusting the act of your body to fit that particular confident state that you would normally have if you were just experiencing that. So it is kind of like there's a front end and a back end. The front end is using your mind to create the confidence and security and courage within yourself to adjust the body to express that. And then there's also adjusting the body to feel those qualities as well.
Yeah. And luck, it's a positive feedback loop in both directions. So it's either you have good posture that feeds your mind and you start getting confident, then you have better posture, or it's the other way.
Right.
You have bad posture and then you start feeling nervous, you start feeling small, and then it continues.
Right.
So you just want to get the momentum going in the right direction, which can be as simple as just getting big.
Taking up space. For men, when they're sitting, being in a receptive type of posture. So, what I'm doing in my chair right now, like leaning back.
Mm-hmm.
You watch any of the way that Don Draper from Mad Men would sit in a chair. That's essentially that sort of receptive, but taking up space at the same time type of.
And like being comfortable too.
Yeah. Super. Yeah. Looking out for their own comfort, for sure.
Do you ever notice yourself mirroring other people, or vice versa, where like I'll have that where I'm like standing a certain way, I'm crossing my arms, and then I like look over at the person I'm talking to and I notice they're doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
Or like they have their foot up the same way that I do.
100%.
Funniest thing.
And that's another thing that you can also sort of back engineer as well, if you're wanting to create rapport, is to focus on mirroring body language. And also, another big part of this that we talked about at the meetup group was noticing the feet positioning.
Mm-hmm.
So noticing where their feet are directed. If there's one towards you and then there's one away, that generally means that they're okay having that conversation, but they also just might want to leave as well. And you can mirror that particular position with your feet to give them, or to align yourself with them and give them the sense of security that you're going to be of the same type of mindset that they're going to be of. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely there's something about when someone's fully facing you with their feet. It's like they're in it. They're involved in this conversation. They're not thinking about going anywhere else because there's nowhere to go. They're pointed at you.
Yep.
So that's
Absolutely.
definitely a sign that they are involved.
Yes. Yeah. I encourage everyone to take a look at Dr. David Snyder's YouTube videos on body language. They're really, really good. They're teaching me a lot because this is something that men are just generally unaware of. We are just so not attuned to our bodies to begin with, and we're also just not attuned to reading other people's bodies as well. So women, on the other hand, tend to be more aware of that because they have a greater depth of intelligence in the realm of intuition and emotions. So they're reading these kinds of things, and we're just completely oblivious to them. You know what I mean? So for us men, there's an added advantage of being able to carry yourself in the world through your body. Something a great tool, because most of communication is body language. It's like a crazy amount percentage is body language. So there's an incredible opportunity to not necessarily fake the way that you're being in the world, but use the body to provide you, because the body affects your emotions the same way your emotions affect your body. There's a connection there. So using the body to increase the kind of qualities of your emotions that you want to bring out is not, it's not necessarily cheating, but it is kind of like a backwards hack.
Yeah, I speaking of being oblivious, I had this female friend in college, and we had like a short thing in our freshman year, and then I had a girlfriend in junior year, and this other friend was around. Like she would come to our like group hangouts and stuff. And my girlfriend was always like, you know, on she was on her radar. And it was like the way she looked at her, other stuff that she did. And I was the oblivious one. I was like, why are you making this stuff up? Like this isn't real. She's she's not trying anything with me. She's just a friend. And that's totally, I bet. It was definitely came down to like body language and her reading the more subtle cues that I was missing.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Whether they know they're doing it or not also
Right.
is totally
It's just like
a debate. I don't think they even notice that they're doing it.
No, I think it's a lot of it is subconscious. And it's like they just notice things and they're like, oh, that person is feeling this way. They just kind of have that intuition that guys have less of. Like we can tell certain clear ones, but there's a lot that we probably don't.
There's also something about women that I heard, and I still cannot wrap my head around how this works, but apparently they can have feelings about feelings and can have feelings about those feelings and can have feelings about those feelings.
Feelings about feelings.
This tree of feelings where there's one thing that they feel about, and then they can feel different ways about that, and then feel different ways about those things. I don't get it. Women out there, maybe you can answer that for me.
Explain what's going on.
Because guys are just like, I like this, I don't like this. We're very binary.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have two feelings. Like it's good or bad. Anything beyond that is like, yeah, a thought.
Yup.
Okay, and then the last thing is to overthink everything you say to her, which let's just go into our Reddit post because that's going to tie in perfectly.
Okay.
So again, just to tie back that Instagram post, a fun way of thinking about how to do the right thing is think about how could I do the wrong thing, do the opposite.
Yep.
Okay. The Reddit post titled "What to Say When Approaching Girls." So, say I'm in a public place and I want to approach a girl I find cute. I'd start with a compliment, but how do I keep the conversation going from there? Like, say I wanted her number. How would I get from A to B? All right. So, how do we get numbers? Where do we go? We start with the compliment.
Yeah. I think we need to take the heavy burden of our success off of the numbers to begin with.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's see if we do that. Let's see what comes about. Let's see what's offered to us. Because what can a woman do with a number? She can either respond to you or not respond to you. So you still have a 50-50 chance if anything's going to happen.
Yeah.
How can you increase your odds of that, of that percentage difference increasing? Is essentially by creating more rapport.
Or just being memorable too.
Yeah.
Because even if it's a quick interaction, like if one of you guys is in a rush, but you're able to make it memorable, then
yeah. And the way you're going to do all of this, by the way, is not by intentionally setting out to be memorable or intentionally setting out to create rapport. What you're going to do in that situation is you're going to allow that interaction to exist. And that's something that so many guys have such a hard time doing. We just want to control every facet of it. Offer the compliment and shut up after that. I mean, I'm not saying don't stop talking, but just offer the compliment and then don't expect anything else. Just ride the wave. Because every time I get nervous about something that I'm like worried I'm going to say, and I actually put myself in that situation, something organically arises to talk about. And if you're having trouble figuring out what you want to talk about with the person while you're inside of that container, then you're too much up in your head and you're not as much present and you're not as much curious or interested in allowing this person to be something for you, to be a possibility of great attraction. So it's actually two things there. So it's not being curious, which is kind of like your own lack of intellectualism, I guess you could say, like about the world, not being curious about the world. Like there's no excuse to not be curious about this world. This is a strange world. I have no idea why we're here.
Right. Especially when you're approaching a girl, like that's a crazy experience. And there's so much to be like curious about in that moment.
Absolutely. And then the second thing though is like, maybe in a lot of cases, people don't want to open up those doors. Maybe they're afraid if they do, there might be an even bigger challenge on the other side.
Yeah.
And they're so happy with just getting to that point where they actually compliment the girl that they're like, okay, I did my thing, I'm out. I mean, that kind of thing happens all the time, right? Will?
That's me.
All the time. All the time. We're like, okay, I did the thing. Now I can go, right? But sticking around, allowing for whatever happens to come up. I mean, you're literally walking into a grab bag.
Yeah.
And there's no way that you're going to be able to control any of it.
Yeah. And then like there's I think a recognition. So I talked to someone today who was telling me that they have this issue. They're like, I just don't know what I'm going to say. And that's one of the things stopping him from doing the approach in the first place. We have another guy in our meetup group, similar issue. But then I'm having a conversation with this person, and I'm like, you know what to say now, like you're talking to me. So it's clear that it's a blocker. It's not that they don't know what to say, it's that they're blocking themselves in some way.
It's essentially an excuse, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is for sure.
Yeah. And it's
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Where you tell yourself you're not going to know what to say. Now you go in there telling yourself that. Now your brain is, your mind is away thinking about that instead of being in the moment where you know exactly what to say.
Yep. It is at the heart of it a cop-out, I think, ultimately.
Yeah. So where do you recommend these people go? The ones who are like, I don't know what to say. I freeze up every time. How can they get past that stage of just being so nervous that they can't talk?
Well, you can express your nervousness.
You can
express the fact that I am so worked up in this moment right now talking to you, because you are incredibly beautiful, and this is not a very common thing that I do, that I don't have words to speak.
Mhm.
That right there is owning your current state.
And then make it a game. Like, hey, you pick something to talk about.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, no, I just had this realization when you said that. I think when you express your nervousness, you're pulling yourself back into the present,
Yes.
because now you're not thinking about your nervousness, you're like feeling it and expressing it, and you're not able to ride out that story that it was telling you.
That's beautiful, Will.
Yeah. So that I feel like that might be a big piece of why that is so, because we've talked about how when you mention that you're nervous, there's like a magical thing that happens. So it's
Yep.
just like you start to fall, like you stop being nervous.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think it's because it just jams you into the present moment.
Right. You start noticing it for what it is.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So again, for people not knowing what to say, it is just figure out how to get present. And that's probably going to take some practice, doing it over and over, talking to strangers. But make that your goal, is how can I be just in this moment?
Yep.
And then, when you are not present, don't beat yourself up, but just recognize it.
Yeah. And I would even recommend saying that to yourself right before you do it. Like, my goal is to be present, and allow that to overtake any of that kind of outcome. And it's so hard to do. It's so hard to not expect a positive outcome, but that could be a way to kind of just like really direct your focus. Like, my goal in this interaction is to be present. That's all you have to say to yourself, and just think that the entire time as you're going through it, and see what happens. There's that, when I say see what happens, I'm inviting faith to come in, I guess you could say. Faith and trust, surrender, perhaps. See what happens. Is a way to just completely just, throw out any kind of those outside expectations.
Yeah, another one is, how can I enjoy this? That's kind of another form of presence. And it's kind of a trick to your brain, because your brain's like, oh, I really want this thing, which is like her number or her to like me or whatever it is. And then you're like, oh, but I have this other good thing, which is like, I can enjoy this. Sometimes I think the feeling of being present is extremely enjoyable, but if you haven't had that experience, if you're not as in tune with yourself, I guess, your brain might not be convinced. So being like, how can I just enjoy this? How can I have fun doing this interaction?
Yeah.
Is a good way to kind of get your brain into that state of presence. And
what kind of joy can I bring to this person in our interaction? How can I pep them up? How can I excite them? How can I brighten their day? Those are all things that really, when I get out there and I'm nervous, when I say those things to myself, they really make a huge difference.
Yeah.
You really want to be in service out here, when you're out talking to women. We talked before about beauty needs a witness. Inspiring beauty in the world, inspiring beauty in the eyes of the women that you find beautiful, is such a true gift that you have at your disposal all the time. And when you go out and you forget that, and your reptile brain goes straight to like, oh, what can I get out of this situation? We lose that brilliant opportunity that makes everything so much easier.
And the paradox there is that you do enjoy it. You do get something out of it yourself when you do these things, because you get to appreciate the beauty. You get to be present. You get to have a good interaction.
Yep.
But it has to come from the perspective of not wanting that,
Mm-hmm.
not looking to take anything, not expecting. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so no one should have any problems with talking to girls anymore. We fixed it.
Nope,
We solved
all fixed.
Okay, community question. How do you approach when you're alone? And this is coming from Avi, and he's not asking how do I do it, like how technically, like he knows he does these alone all the time. What he means is, how do you get yourself to do them consistently and get over that fear when you don't have a friend there with you, a buddy who knows what you're doing, who's going to give you that nudge, that accountability, or just, see you do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this will work in all cases, but I was thinking perhaps just texting one of your friends. Yeah, you could do this. Anybody could do this in any situation. Text one of your friends that when you head out, state your intention to them.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, you're going to be creating accountability for yourself, even if your friend doesn't respond right away. They'll see it later and they'll be like, so did you do that thing? That can be a way to really set yourself up, because I remember talking to him about this a little bit, and I think it was him where we were talking about how he goes out on his everyday. Oh no, I was talking to another client about this. He goes out on his everyday business, and when an opportunity comes around, because he's not ready for it, he feels resistance. So what you do is when you are intentionally setting out to go and approach, send that text message that will get you in that zone where that the next time you're going to talk to your friend, you're going to have to say something about that.
Because they're going to ask, dude, how did it go?
Yeah.
And then you can't. Yeah. You don't want to be like, oh, there was a chance, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Just to have people in your life that know what you're doing, who you can text when they can't be there.
Yep.
I went through this before I met Tim, where I was trying to do this on my own. And it was mostly because I was just embarrassed to be doing it. So I didn't really tell anybody. And I can say it was really hard. It's very difficult to continue with consistency. And doing it regularly. And like you said, not being in the mode, not being expecting it to happen at that time. So then you don't, or I would not go out one day or for weeks. And there was just no one else who knew what I was doing, so I could ignore the fact that I was falling off. So then once I met Tim, we never really went out together, but just having someone who knew what I was doing changed everything. So that's a great point. Just text someone what you're doing and your intention.
Hire a coaching program like the Art of Approach.
Oh yeah, that's gonna really get you there
for sure.
That's the big boy move.
Big
if you're
boys.
Really trying to make a change.
Big boys welcome.
Yeah. I actually have a question. Your friend yesterday was saying he came for the first time and he was asking about approaching alone or in groups, like doing an approach with two people. And I have met people who are like, I want to do it with someone else, especially if there's multiple women in the group. So I'm curious what you think about that.
So you have a wingman out or something like that with you?
Yes.
Boy. I was just remembering the times that I would go to this gay night, and there'd be a ton of gay dudes around, and there'd also be really attractive women at this particular thing. And I used to buy gay guys drinks to go and approach the woman that I was interested in, and then I would then I would just drop over and I would hop into the conversation.
Man, okay. That's
pretty stealthy, but also kind of like, I don't know. It's just, again, we all have a unique opportunity here to be brave and to show courage.
I think that's the biggest thing you're missing when you do that.
Absolutely.
Is you just don't get the chance to
Absolutely.
show.
And it's so easy to kind of fall into a friend zone kind of place if you are using those other crutches to help you get there. The biggest impact that we can make is by going up and immediately saying, I think you're beautiful, or waiting like a few lines into our conversation to admit it, but just doing it like right at the beginning,
or at least in the first interaction.
Sure. Yeah. As soon as you can, of course. The sooner the better. But there's that unique opportunity is something you're just not going to get. It's not going to be as easy to do that when you have another person with you.
Right.
I mean, if you can just imagine like you and a friend going up to like a group of girls, and the one you're interested in, I don't know, it would seem really strange that this one guy is just like, I'm really interested in you, and you're like, well, who's that? I don't know. For some reason that
there's something so fun about going up to a group of girls alone. And I know how terrifying it is. But having done it like enough times where I'm like not over the fear, but where like the fear isn't stopping me, it's so much fun. It's like you almost are always embraced by the group just for doing it.
Yeah. And Dr. David Snyder talked about in his body language course is how you can identify the primary influencer of the group by looking at everybody's body position and their position of their feet.
Mm-hmm.
By doing that, you can actually go and to the primary influencer, gain acceptance through them to the entire group, which is very interesting, right?
Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah.
We are funny creatures.
Yeah. But yeah. But yeah, so I think alone is best. It does give you that opportunity to be the guy like who can do that. If you're always the one who needs someone like a gay guy to go talk to the girl for you, then you're missing the chance to
fully express yourself.
Fully express, yeah, your courage.
And I would say the same thing even if you have a wingman going up there.
Right. Same thing.
It's just not the same.
Yeah. Yeah,
what we do in the Art of Approach program though is infield coaching, where we actually have we coach you with having your headphones in, and we're talking to you and we're listening as you're going up and approaching. I think you can get away with that because they don't know that there's somebody on the line with you.
That's also like, yeah, that's different too, because you're not, the person on the line is not helping you by doing it for you. That's the difference. When you have a wingman, they're kind of doing part of it for you.
Right.
But when you have the coach, they're just there supporting you. They're like, they're not telling you what to say. They're not telling you how to do it. They're just, maybe talking to you beforehand and then giving you that knowledge that someone is here with me.
Right. Yeah. And I would especially say if you're doing the wingman thing and your wingman is approaching the group and starting the whole rapport, then you're just basically sitting in the shadows the whole time.
Yes.
So you can see how that doesn't work.
Yes, this is the one. Yeah, this is not something that can be done for you. You have to be able to put yourself there and be brave, do it yourself.
But at least with a coach on the line, you have presence and you have support if you're doing the infield coaching. Mm-hmm. So that gives a certain amount of security, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all of our reactions and responses, and for today.
Good picks, Will.
So we're good there.
You're gonna get into it?
We have some good stories for today to get into.
I saw your eye contact with me already, so I know exactly which story we're getting into there.
Yeah. So, a couple episodes back, I think it was the New Year's one, I mentioned I was going to do something, and I've done it.
Yes.
There is a girl who I've just kind of been around enough to, I mean, just know that I fucking am really into her. Like, I really like her. And so I told myself I'm going to have to tell her this. And the way that we've had our interactions have been primarily in kind of group kind of settings. Like, there's always people around. And so for me, my whole approach, my like backstory has been doing this with strangers, talking to people I do not know. And with that, I have tons of practice and I'm good with it. I'm like, I'll fucking tell any random girl who I don't know that I'm into them. But a completely different story here, because I haven't had this type of situation where I like met the girl, kind of started to get to know her, and then I'm like, okay, now I have to tell her. So I knew I was going to do it. And last Friday, I had an opportunity, missed it, was talking to myself. I was fucking terrified, so much anxious energy in my body. Where like I almost went, and then I was like, no, I can't, and then I almost went, no, I can't. You see, I'm getting ready to go away now. We were talking about how the body language. And then I had the opportunity again, and I took it. Another thing to tie back, I was there with a friend, and at one point, I was having this internal battle where I was like, do it. And then the part of me is like, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, please don't. And I was having this internal battle for a bit. And then I didn't want to tell my friend, because then I knew I would have to do it. You know, that like, as soon as someone else knows, then I'm like, okay, well, now I can't fail in front of him. And so I told him, I was like, I'm really nervous right now. And then he caught the drift of what I was saying. And he didn't like push me to do it too much, but he just knew. And he was like, dude, you're going to do it? Awesome. Okay. So then I'm like, okay. So then the next opportunity I had, I like took a second, and then I just walked and I went up to her and talked to her. So nervous, like voice shaking, heart pounding, hands sweating, like the whole everything. And I just told her, like, I'm so nervous right now, but I'm really into you. And yeah, I did it.
Amazing. Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That is a really, really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Will has graduated to goddess level.
Yes. She is goddess level, goddess tier. Yeah. And so then it seemed to go well, and then it became like oh fuck, what now?
Yeah. So do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah. So I told her that. She's fucking cool as a cucumber. Like, so like her responses are so cool. Like, she's just I tell her like, I'm so nervous, but I'm really into you, and she's like, you think I didn't know that already?
Every time you tell me that, it's racking me up, dude. What else would a goddess say?
Right.
Come on, dude. It's written all over your face.
And so then I'm like, my heart is pounding so hard right now. I tell her that. And she then she asked me, what do you want to do about that? And at this point, I'm dying. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is all I had. This is what I planned out. This is how far ahead I thought. And she she congratulated me. She was like, nice job doing this.
Oh yeah.
So thank you. It's cool. But yeah, that's where it was. And then afterward, I was like mad at myself for being so nervous and not being able to break out of that. But yeah, I did it in the first place. So
Fuck yeah.
that's what I'm happy about.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, would you be interested in talking about what transpired after that?
What?
Because there's some meat and potatoes in there.
Yeah. About after the whole interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I end up just being like, let's just do something sometime, like outside of this group that we're in. And I give her my number, and she calls me just right away. So I have her number. So I ask her to come to this party.
Yeah.
That Tim invited me to. And she's like, hey, I'm really busy, but so I can't commit. That's what she was saying. She can't commit to making it to the plan, but that she would let me know if it worked out.
Didn't she agree to get together with you that night first, though, or did I miss that?
No, she didn't.
Okay, so
we didn't really talk.
She's always said, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it.
Yes.
Okay.
That was her first response to it. And like in the moment, I was shitting my pants, so I couldn't like plan out anything. Like when we were talking.
Yeah.
Nothing like happened there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it was, I can't commit, but I'll let you know.
Yeah.
And so today I'm thinking back on that interaction, like how I just told you what she said. And of course how I was a nervous wreck the entire time. And I started second guessing myself because right afterward I was like, okay, I gave her my number. I got her number. That seems like a good sign. And what she said in the moment seemed like she was into it. Like she was expressing some kind of reciprocity. Like, then today I was thinking back and I was telling myself something different. And it was like that dark side of me being like, no, she did not like you. She was being nice. And she never said that she liked you. And I was overanalyzing because she had said, you think I didn't know that? That's just her saying that she's aware that I'm into her. The next thing she said was that she asked what I wanted to do about it. So then I was like, that's her being nice. So that's where I was today.
And I think it'd be
deep in my head.
I think it'd be really interesting to just have our listeners go into their mind for a minute and think about what that particular phrase that she said to him really means. So, what are you going to do about it? What does that seem like in your mind is really communicating?
Yeah.
Because I know it's certainly not saying, for me at least, it's certainly not saying what Will is chalking it up to.
Well, what my one part of me is saying.
Yeah. To me, it seems more like that's an invitation. It's like a challenge. Let's go. Let's, what do you got?
Yeah.
What do you got? You show me what you got.
Right. And that's funny because that's how I first felt that it was. And it wasn't until I had time to sit and overthink it, question it, all that, to come up with this other story behind it.
Yep.
So this is one where it's like you got to bring it to court, and it's the Justice Tim making the ruling.
Ding 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 ding.
Yeah. So
court is in session.
That's where my mind went on that. And again, it's so, I don't know what it was about that, doing that approach. It was definitely that I just hadn't done that before with someone I knew.
It was the level of quality of the woman that you saw
That's true.
in front of you.
It's a mix of knowing the quality because I knew her. It wasn't just a stranger who I knew nothing about. And then it was also the feeling that I was risking something.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't really, I don't think. Because I think if she isn't into me, I don't think it's gonna make any difference.
Do you not feel that the stakes were higher in this situation?
No, I definitely did feel.
Oh, okay.
It's like my rational brain is like, no, but they're not. Like she can know that I'm into her, as she did know clearly.
Yeah.
She told me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm like, she can know that, and we could still have like the same type of friendship thing that was going on. I'd like, and it's better that she does know,
right?
Rather than me pretending, and her knowing that I'm into her. So it's basically, I'm saying it's a win-win. Me telling her is a win-win in either situation, where she's into me or where she's not.
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's good either way.
For sure. But with this type of woman, what I see is the one of the big things in the way is the pedestal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we are going to approach that goddess level lady, we're essentially putting them on a pedestal in that kind of situation. And in some cases we have to go through this. Like, this really, to me, felt like you were advancing to another level in a video game or something like that. And you probably won't have to go through that many more situations like that. I mean, maybe you will find even more goddesses.
Bring them on.
Oh, yeah.
Ready. I'm fucking ready now.
But the reality is that this is kind of a transformational experience that you went through.
Yes. Yeah, and like the internal experience I had, like, game changer.
Yeah, and what the transformation really speaks to me is that there's a next level of women that you innately are able to attract. You have it. Everybody has it in themselves to attract that level of woman if they wanted to, but you're actually having to go through the process of showing yourself that you're able to attract. So convincing yourself.
Yes.
That's the transformation that you ended up going through, and you ended up doing that by sheer willpower, sheer courage, sheer bravery, to get to that point.
And self-talk.
Yeah.
Because I had one side of me that was the whole time being like, dude, she's not gonna, like, you're a piece of shit. She's not gonna like you. She's being nice.
Yep.
And then I had to have the other side, like, dude, you're the fucking man. You can do this.
Yeah.
You are worthy.
Yes.
So that was the battle. There's one battle which was do it, don't do it. But then below that was like, you're worthy, you're not worthy. Yeah.
It's something else, Will.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun experience.
Miracles can happen in this world.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people have been through this, just with like fears, facing a fear, which is like that relief you get, that sense of like exhilaration.
Oh my God.
In the moment of doing it.
It's like skydiving, man, jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah.
That level of intensity, right?
Right. Yeah, I was in fight or flight.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep.
And I was flying. I was trying to fly.
Thanks for sharing that, man. That was a really good share.
Yeah, dude. That was a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything for today?
Yeah, I wanted to share a few things because I'm still getting out there. I'm still warming my way up.
Yeah, Tim's coming back. Coach Tim's
coming back. Yeah, I've been going to the meetups with Will, and there was an interesting experience that I had at the Central Market grocery store that we go to for our meat market meetup. And I started off with like with a blast. I honestly feel like I'm way better just going solo, even though without not hanging around in the group and just going off by my own. And I ended up doing that and got got a bunch of like small, low stake interactions with just anybody. I was just basically warming myself up, getting my social muscles warmed up.
Just being the friendly guy.
Yep.
Mm.
And that definitely helped a lot. And as I was walking down one aisle, I wasn't seeing many women that would have to me been like a higher stake approach for me to engage in. And I did see one woman that walked by me, and as she was walking by me, I held eye contact. She held eye contact, and there was a smile. I wasn't that attracted to her. So of course I made the excuse of not going and talking to her. But what I recognized, a pattern that I have noticed a number of times over, is that when I get signals from a woman, I'm actually more inclined to want to resist and push away that opportunity. And there's a level of pride that comes up inside of myself, a lot of unhealthy pride that is just like, yeah, I'm attractive. Like, that's why she smiled at me. I don't need to do anything else.
Yeah.
Like it's more so like I want to leave on a high note.
Right.
Thing, right? Like, I don't want to go up to her and discover that she's actually not attracted to me, because that's
somehow
gonna
ruin it.
It's gonna ruin the illusion,
Mhm.
which I'm feeding myself. I'm feeding myself this illusion, you know. So I made a decision that if a situation like that happens again, that's going to be my challenge. Is if I get a signal, I'm going to go up there. I mean, the level of ease that I feel approaching someone that doesn't give me a signal is so much higher. It's so much easier for me to approach someone that doesn't give me a signal. And I think, you know, maybe part of what's happening there is that there's less of an expectation of an outcome. What if I go and approach a woman that gives me a signal and there's nothing there, which is exactly what happened later, because I gave myself that opportunity. I was talking to this old friend that I met at that showed up at Central Market, and I was talking to her. And as I was talking to her, another woman as she was walking by me, had the eye contact on me the whole time and was smiling as I was looking at her on the side of my vision. And I got done talking to my friend, and I went over and talked to her. And again, I wasn't super attracted. I was just mostly doing it to kind of like practice doing that. I don't think that she, I didn't get the clear sense that she was actually really happy that I came over, which is strange.
So you did have that eye contact.
Yeah, that's what I experienced.
Yeah.
But nothing is set in stone in the dating world. It's all uncertainty. And again, I wasn't like disappointed that wasn't the case, but it was, I think, you know, it also could have been so many things, right? It could have been just the shock that a dude actually did follow up on the eye contact. Because if I'm not following up on eye contact or those kind of body language signals, then most guys are probably not either.
Yeah. That's kind of natural.
Yeah. So maybe she was just shocked that I actually did it. That could be a case. But also, I wasn't attracted to her. So there wasn't even the opportunity for attraction to occur from my side.
I wonder if that was a part of it.
That could have been the case too, yeah.
Maybe you just had that energy that you weren't super interested, and she was looking for that.
She could have noticed.
And didn't see it. Yeah.
She could have noticed that I didn't have that energy.
Yeah.
So why are you coming over and talking to me then, dude?
Right.
Are you doing this as some kind of practice? In which I did tell her that we were with a group. Pro tip, if you are nervous about going and approaching women in any kind of situation, you can always just tell her that you're challenging yourself to talk to women.
Yeah.
Which I was just like, I'm in a group and we go here to practice talking to strangers. And so that's what I told her. And it wasn't a bad interaction, but it was certainly me, you know, facing a challenge that I saw out there for myself.
Do you feel like it was not good because you had built it up by the eye contact? You had built up what you thought it was going to be.
Built up what I thought it was going to be.
Like you had created this thing where it's like, oh, this woman's really into me. We just made eye contact. Now when I talk to her, it's going to be a exciting
I think there
great
was.
interaction.
I think
And then
that
it was just kind of a normal interaction. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it was bad.
Yeah, you're right. I think that there was an expectation that it was going to be something with a lot of excitement, a lot of joy.
Right. And I can totally relate to that. And I think tons of guys where like you get the eye contact, and then that's kind of exhilarating in itself. Being like holding eye contact with a stranger, to the point where then you're like, okay, I'm good. Because you're kind of like up here now, and then you can have the interaction and that could go down, right? Like you were saying, like, oh, I'm the man, like she likes me. And then you go in and it's like, it doesn't seem like she does. And then all of a sudden you just lost that.
Yeah.
Where if you had just kept going, then you could have kept that like image of yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think curiosity in that case, that's another good way to think. It's like, oh, why did she just look at me like that? Let me go see. Let me go find out what's going on.
Yeah. I feel like maybe I've heard it from you, or I don't know who I heard this from, but they would talk about how just being so blatant with, if you see a woman giving you eye contact, just going over there and saying, I noticed you were looking at me.
Oh, I've done that.
Have you? You have. I
yeah.
thought so.
Yeah, there's a time in the park I'm remembering where these two girls walked by, and I was just looking at one, and then she looked at me, and she like held eye contact as she walked, and then I like ran after her, and I was like, "Hey, we just made eye contact back there." And she was like, "Yeah, we did." And that was how we started the conversation.
We just made eye contact over there. Yeah. That
it's like
happened.
she knows that. Obviously, she knows that, and we like play this game where we like pretend like, "Oh, I didn't really know that." Like,
right?
It seems weird to call it out, but it's like, yeah, she knows that you just made eye contact. It's not weird to say.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely try that myself.
Yeah, I think it's good to see like the eye contact as an invitation to a conversation, or to at least an introduction. Like if someone gives you prolonged eye contact, there's probably a reason.
Yeah.
So
hey, I noticed that we made eye contact back there, and I had to come and talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Perfect.
Yeah. Doesn't get any more straightforward or simple than that.
No, yeah. That's good. Let me think what else. Yeah, so we had our group meetup yesterday. And that seemed to go well. We didn't have a ton of the real people show up, but we had plenty of other people show up. So
yeah, we had our old standbys. It was cold out, and we experienced maybe what is our first double approach between group members.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it's happened before, and I don't remember. It probably has happened, but without us knowing, without like they didn't say anything about it. But this time she called it out.
Yep. And it happened to me.
Yeah, Tim got the second round.
I mean, I got a few in, but I just wasn't having that many that were catching my eyes, many women that were catching my eyes. And at the last minute, I was just like, oh, there's a cute lady down this aisle. And I went up, and I was very awkward. And when I reflect on that, I don't think she was giving off receptive vibes. I don't think she obviously didn't want to be approached, because when I talked to her, she just seemed very, very unamused by the fact that not only did I go and approach her and give her a compliment, but somebody else from our group did as well. And I was just like, I noticed as soon as I heard that, I noticed my feet changed positions to behind, the opposite direction. And I was like, well, just wanted to give you a compliment. I wanted to get the fuck out of there as soon as possible. It was very uncomfortable. But so is everything is fair in the arena of dating.
Yeah. She does not owe you a conversation.
Nope.
Yeah, that's I wonder if you had sat in there for a little bit.
Yeah,
anything would have changed.
I think I think it probably might have, but I also didn't really want to sit in there because I wasn't really all that drawn to her energy either.
Right.
You know,
Well, that's good then, like, because that's the main focus you should be having. Is like if you're drawn to them,
yeah,
you shouldn't try and force it just to see if they'll like you. If they'll be into it.
Right? Yeah. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
But that was an interesting experience from that point of view.
Right. And she said something like, didn't, or like someone else just did that.
Yeah.
What exactly did she say?
She's like, what's going on today? She's like, do you have a roommate here in the... She asked about a roommate who's doing this too.
Oh,
It's
that's
like,
funny.
and then I just told her that, you know, I run the meetup group and it's for meeting strangers.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. Just wanted to give you a compliment. That's all. Nothing more.
Else. Yeah. Dude, I've this is embarrassing. I've double approached people before.
Oh.
Where I didn't recognize them.
Oh,
at first.
I think I remember this. Tell the
It's happened
story.
a couple times. One time it happened. I went up to this. It was at Zilker Park, and this girl with her dog, and I was like drawn to her because she was beautiful, and I was like, "You're so pretty." And her friend was with her, and she was like, "Yeah, isn't she?"
Nice.
And then the friend was like, "Yeah, I think we've met before." And I was like, and then I realized, I was like, "Oh, yep, we have." And then I talked to someone else the same day, like 15 minutes later, same thing.
Really?
Yeah.
You just totally forgot that you had talked to them?
I recognized her as I was talking to her.
Oh.
Yeah. But it was like weird. The light was weird where I like could only see her silhouette kind of when I went up to her.
Got you.
And so that's why I didn't like, I couldn't really see her face. And then when I got there, then I was like, oh shit, I know this person. But yeah, that was weird. And that one actually went really well because I was like, oh, we've met before. And then we got to talk and like see how things have been going. But yeah, that was weird. And then I was like, oh shit, like I've approached every girl in Austin. That's all of them. All the Zilker Park. Yeah.
That is something else. But I mean, it's also just like, who can blame you? I mean, you're attracted to who you're attracted to, and
right. No, yeah. I was just like, oh, I ran out. Like, out of
yeah,
options.
and you ran out without like, you know, spending the entire day observing and analyzing. Should I go and do this? You just went. So of course, you know, you're going to stumble upon someone ever so often. You know.
Yeah, no, the point again, yeah, is what you were saying. It's not a bad thing. And obviously I didn't run out. Like there's so many women in Austin.
I know. Yeah.
But it felt like that. And yeah, that's a good point. It's not, there's nothing wrong with being honest.
No siree.
Yeah.
No siree.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's all we got for today. Anything else you got?
Nope, that's what I got. Okay. So thank you all for joining us. This is the 8th episode of the Art of Approach podcast. We'll be back next week with episode 9. And if you're interested in our coaching program, you can find more information at theartofapproach.com. And we wish you all a very, very lovely week and look forward to seeing you again soon.